I could have said, "But some songs about Ricky, never mind, he's trash." I was like, I could have said that.
That would have really
But I didn't. I said, now I listen and laugh.
This is the 19-year-old Serenity Childs and 18-year-old Briana Sinai Ware Hall. Two young women whose lives came to a sudden end after they were gunned down protecting each other and later buried side by side. On the evening of July 13, 2023, police were called to the 2400 block of Washington Street, behind 2421 Washington Street, Waukegan, Illinois, after reports of gunfire. When officers arrived, they found Serenity and Briana inside a parked vehicle, both suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. They were pronounced dead at the scene. What should have been an ordinary evening between best friends became a moment that shattered two families and an entire community. And the most disturbing part is this: the danger didn't come out of nowhere. It had been documented, reported, and legally restrained, because one of these young women had already tried to escape the violence and the other refused to leave her side. But before we get there, we have to go back to who Serenity and Briana were before the fear, before the court orders, and before the moment that bound their names together forever.
If it were good to have a nigga you could run to, cry on, confine and be your lover and your friend too. That shit hit different when it's genuine. To let someone who love you more like Martin DeGino when he bought her that Benz. Nowadays it be the bitch playing the nigga role. You would've thought I was pregnant with an 18-year-old. The way I dog these niggas, spit them out and chew them up. You gotta play the game of baby, it's gonna eat you up. I hate to treat a nigga exactly how he did me, cause when I'm done, he gon' feel it in his chest and knees. I'ma look you in your eyes like, nigga, please. See, I told you when it's my turn, I'ma make you bleed. See, I told you when it's my turn, I'ma make you bleed. I deserve that somebody else. Baby, I deserve that.
This is the life and death of Serenity Childs and Briana Hall. Serenity Desire Childs was born on July 19, 2004. She was living in North Chicago, Illinois, and she had the kind of presence that people remembered long after she left a room. Family and friends described her as bright, loving, and deeply compassionate. Serenity wasn't loud or attention-seeking. She didn't have to be. Her warmth drew people in naturally. She was the kind of person who checked in on others, who noticed when someone was struggling, and who gave pieces of herself freely. And nowhere was that more visible than in her love for music. Serenity was a certified nursing assistant, but she also had a passion for singing, rapping, and dancing. Music wasn't just a hobby, it was her outlet, her dream, and her vision for the future. She talked openly about wanting to become a successful artist one day, imagining a life where her voice and creativity could carry her somewhere beyond what she knew. To those closest to her, that dream didn't seem unrealistic at all. Serenity had the discipline, the heart, and the drive to chase it. But there was another side to her that mattered just as much. Serenity loved to help people. She was involved in community projects and was known for being loyal, caring, and emotionally present. Friends said she was the one who stayed when things got hard, the one who listened, the one who didn't give up on people easily. And while those qualities made her deeply loved, they would later place her in a position that was far more dangerous than she ever realized. Because Serenity was not walking through life alone. Briana Sinai Ware Hall was 18 years old, living in Waukegan, Illinois, and she carried her own kind of creative spark. While Serenity poured herself into music, Briana expressed herself through fashion and design. She loved to draw, sketch, and create her own clothes, often imagining designs that reflected her personality, bold, expressive, and unique. Friends and family described Briana as smart, adventurous, and generous. She had a big heart and a big personality, someone whose energy filled a room the moment she arrived. Briana loved to travel and explore new places, and she talked about seeing the world beyond Illinois. She wasn't content with staying still. She wanted experiences, memories, and stories. And standing at the center of many of those plans was Serenity, because when Serenity and Briana met in high school, they didn't just become friends, they became inseparable. They shared interests, dreams, and emotional space. They supported each other through school, work, and personal struggles. Friends described them as like sisters. They even called each other twin, a nickname that reflected how closely their lives were intertwined. But that closeness wasn't just about fun or shared hobbies, it was also about protection. Because while Briana was building dreams of fashion and travel, Serenity was quietly trying to rebuild her life after something that had already left scars. All this time, Serenity had been in a relationship with Jonathan Stinnett, an 18-year-old from Winthrop Harbor, Illinois. And at first, it may seem like a usual relationship among teenagers. But behind what seemed like a teenage dream relationship is a secret that Serenity had been suffering from. Their relationship was troubled and abusive, and it was not a light and one-time thing that Jonathan physically and emotionally abused Serenity. Jonathan had a documented history of domestic violence involving Serenity and had been arrested multiple times for assaulting her. Over time, the situation escalated beyond what Serenity could manage on her own, eventually requiring outside intervention. That intervention came through the court system. Jonathan Stinnett was served with a restraining order, legally prohibiting him from contacting Serenity or coming anywhere near her. On paper, the order was meant to provide protection and establish clear boundaries. In reality, it only worked if the person it targeted chose to follow it. Jonathan did not. This marked a turning point in Serenity's life. While she tried to move forward, the danger she had hoped to leave behind did not disappear. It did not fade with distance or accept the limits imposed by the court. Instead, it lingered in the background, restrained by paperwork but not by intent. And Briana was aware of that reality.
At 10 tonight, we are hearing from the parents of a woman killed in a shooting last night in Waukegan. 19-year-old Serenity Childs of North Chicago was killed along with her friend, 18-year-old Briana Hall of Waukegan. Serenity's family saying she was a certified nursing assistant and always put other people before herself. Police say the women were found dead inside a car parked behind a building on Washington near Keller.
Everybody loved Serenity. She was just, an amazing young girl or young lady.
She was just an overall leader, and people gravitated towards her.
Police say they have arrested Jonathan Stinnett on first-degree murder charges. He was allegedly in a relationship with one of the victims.
As Serenity's closest friend, Briana was more than just someone she spent time with. She was her support system during moments of fear and uncertainty, the person Serenity trusted when the weight of everything felt overwhelming. She stood beside her as Serenity tried to live beyond control and intimidation, offering reassurance, companionship, and a sense of safety that Serenity struggled to find on her own. In situations like this, proximity mattered, and Briana was always close. Despite what she had endured, Serenity worked hard to reclaim a sense of normalcy. She continued going to work, spending time with friends, laughing, making plans, and leaning on the people who made her feel grounded. Briana was central to those moments, providing a sense of peace that Serenity desperately needed. For brief stretches, life felt manageable again, but peace can be fragile when someone refuses to let go. As summer 2023 progressed, the tension that had once been contained began to feel heavier. The restraining order did not erase Jonathan's fixation, it merely documented it. What existed on paper did not necessarily reflect what Serenity still felt in real life, a lingering sense that the situation was not truly over. On Wednesday, July 13, 2023, Serenity and Briana made plans to spend time together after work. There was nothing unusual about the decision. There had been no argument, no confrontation, and no indication that danger was imminent. They drove together to a parking lot at 2400 block of Washington Street, behind 2421 Washington Street, Waukegan, Illinois, after reports of gunfire. When officers arrived, they found Serenity and Briana inside a parked vehicle, both suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. They were pronounced dead at the scene. The setting was familiar, the conversation casual, and the atmosphere calm. What they didn't know was that someone who was not supposed to be there had already begun moving towards them, and that person was not there by accident. His presence at that location at that time was deliberate. He went where he knew Serenity would be, and he arrived prepared to do something irreversible. While Briana and Serenity were talking, Jonathan Stinnett approached their vehicle. He was there despite the restraining order, despite his documented history of abuse, and despite the legal consequences that awaited him for violating the court's directive. As he walked towards the car, he was armed with a 9mm handgun. As Jonathan closed the distance between himself and the car, nothing outwardly signaled what was about to happen. There was no shouting, no warning, no moment where Serenity or Briana had a chance to react. The escalation was immediate, violent, and final. And just like that, the danger Serenity had been trying to outrun caught up with her. When the gunfire stopped, Jonathan fled the scene. He left the parking lot with another individual, a 21-year-old from Waukegan, and the two drove away in a black Nissan. The speed of the escape would later become one of the first details investigators focused on, because it showed that this was not a moment of panic or confusion. It was a departure already anticipated. Within moments, calls began coming in reporting shots fired in the area. Multiple callers reported hearing several shots in rapid succession, enough to immediately signal that this was not an accident or a single discharge. Officers from the Waukegan Police Department were immediately dispatched to the scene, responding to what was initially described as a shots fired call. But what they would find would make the situation clear almost instantly.
Who else you see with him besides me?
Me?
Who? Yeah, when you with me. You don't see that nigga with no other bitch.
You really thought you ate? Give me that fucking plate.
As officers arrived in the parking lot, they located a vehicle parked near the building. Inside the car were two young women who had been struck by gunfire. Both victims had suffered multiple gunshot wounds, and the severity of their injuries was immediately apparent. The Waukegan Fire Department was also dispatched to the scene and attempted emergency intervention. Despite those efforts, Serenity Childs, 19, and Briana Sinai Ware Hall, 18, were pronounced dead at the location. What had begun as a routine response to reports of gunfire had now become a confirmed double homicide.
Let me gag, ho. Take it, take it, take it, take it. Hold my head when I shake, shake it, take it, take it, take it, take this ass that it ain't basic. Basic. Take it, take it, take it, take it. Fuck me in all kind of places. You a bitch real nasty. When I'm done, nigga, I'ma shake it. On me. Watch me. Watch me.
Investigators began canvassing the area while evidence technicians documented the vehicle and surrounding pavement. Multiple 9mm shell casings were recovered near the car, confirming that several shots had been fired at close range. What had initially been a shots fired call had now become a confirmed double homicide. As officers worked the scene, witness statements began to shape the early timeline. Several people reported seeing a man approach the vehicle moments before the shots rang out. Others described seeing a car flee the area immediately afterward. Those details, combined with surveillance footage from the area, would soon narrow investigators' focus. It did not take long for detectives to connect the scene to Jonathan Stinnett. In the rear parking lot, they located a vehicle parked near the building. Inside the car were two young women who had been struck by gunfire. Both had suffered multiple gunshot wounds, and the severity of their injuries was evident. Officers immediately requested medical assistance, and the Waukegan Fire Department was dispatched to the scene. Despite emergency efforts, Serenity Childs, 19, and Briana Sinai Ware Hall, 18, were pronounced deceased at the location. What had begun as a routine response to reports of gunfire had now become a confirmed double homicide. The parking lot was secured and investigators began processing the scene. Evidence technicians documented the vehicle, the surrounding area, and the trajectory of the shots. Multiple 9mm shell casings were recovered near the car, confirming that several rounds had been fired. The scene told a clear story. The shots were deliberate, targeted, and fired at close range. As officers canvassed the area, witness statements began to shape the early timeline. Several people reported seeing a man approach the vehicle moments before the shots rang out. Others described seeing a car speeding away from the area immediately after the gunfire. Surveillance footage from nearby locations helped corroborate those accounts. It did not take long for investigators to identify a suspect. Jonathan Stinnett's name surfaced quickly, not only because he had been seen near the scene, but because of his documented history with Serenity. Detectives confirmed that Stinnett had an active restraining order prohibiting him from contacting her or coming anywhere near her. His prior arrests for domestic violence against Serenity were already on record. Taken together, those facts narrowed the focus of the investigation almost immediately. And as detectives worked to locate him, another critical detail emerged. Jonathan had fled the state. Through coordinated efforts between agencies, investigators tracked Jonathan Stinnett to a residence in Kenosha, Wisconsin. There, he was taken into custody by the Kenosha Police Department, along with the individual who had assisted him in fleeing the scene. There was no prolonged standoff, no confusion about identity. Jonathan was arrested, and soon after the arrest, a shocking turn of events happened. Jonathan would confess to the shooting, a statement that would become a central piece of evidence in the case against him. And with the confession in hand, it didn't take long for the charges to be dropped. Just days later, on July 15, 2023, prosecutors formally announced the charges. Jonathan Stinnett, just 18 years old, was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. Prosecutors emphasized the severity of the crime: 2 victims killed in a single attack, multiple gunshot wounds, an active restraining order that had been deliberately violated, and a documented history of domestic violence that preceded the killings. The charges reflected not only what happened in that parking lot on July 13th, but everything that had led up to it. But as the case progressed through the legal system, the courtroom could only address part of what had happened, because outside of legal filings and charges, 2 families were left grappling with an absence that no sentence could ever fill. Serenity's mother spoke publicly in the weeks that followed, describing her daughter as her angel and her source of strength. She reminded the public that Serenity had done what she was told to do. She reported the abuse, sought help, and obtained a restraining order. Yet despite those steps, she was not kept safe.
Everybody loved Serenity. She was just, an amazing young girl or young lady.
Briana's family carried a different kind of grief. Briana was not the target of the abuse. She was not involved in the legal conflict. She was there simply because she refused to leave her best friend alone. Her father described her as her princess, a young woman with a big heart and a vibrant spirit. She lost her life for standing beside someone she loved. The community of Waukegan responded with candlelight vigils and public calls for change. Advocacy groups pointed to the warning signs that had been present long before the shooting: a documented history of violence, an active restraining order, and a known risk that was uncontained. Not long after the incident, Serenity and Briana were laid to rest together in a joint funeral. Buried side by side in matching outfits they had designed themselves, the two best friends were honored the same way they lived, together. That image became one of the most haunting reminders of the case. They were not victims of random violence. They were killed during an ordinary moment in a place that should have been safe. Serenity Childs and Briana Sinai Ware Hall were more than a headline. They were young women with dreams, creativity, and futures that should have stretched far beyond that day. Their story stands as a reminder of the real cost when warning signs are ignored and protection fails. Their deaths were senseless, their lives mattered, and their bond did not end in that parking lot. It lives on in the people who remember them and in the questions their story continues to raise. What do you think about it? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.